on to order. This afternoon's school board meeting is different than our typical monthly school board meetings. Our audience will have opportunities to speak 2 different times. At a regular school board meeting, there is a time set aside for public comment on school board agenda items from the previous school board meeting, the August 14th meeting, or this afternoon's school board agenda. If you are here to give public comment on any agenda items at either school board meeting, please complete this public comment card. If you are here to give public comment on the 25-26 budget and the 25 tax levy, you do not need to complete the public comment card, but I will ask you to sign in at the podium when we get to that portion of our agenda. Our public budget hearing will not start before 5:30. We may skip items 7 and 8 on the agenda and go on to item number 9, new business, depending on the time. With that said, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would entertain a motion to approve our agenda.
So moved.
It's been moved.
I'd second.
It's been seconded. Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none, Mrs. Dawkins, will you please call the roll?
Sabrina Herman,
Yes.
Lacey Lonschlager,
Yes.
Bill Ehrman,
Bill, are you a yay or a nay?
Scott Lauser,
Yes.
Mitch Kraft.
Yes, motion carries. Item number 5, consent agenda. I would entertain a motion to approve this agenda. Oh, hold on, Leonard.
Let's see, it was for.
Didn't I do that one? No, we want to do it again? Oh, wait, hold
If
on.
anybody's here,
We're backing that up.
public comment.
Public comment. The Board of Education welcomes public input and encourages community engagement in the work of the district. Time is set aside at regular board meetings for public comments, providing an opportunity for individuals to share their views on agenda items. This section is governed under MPS policies BCBA and BCBA-BR. Individuals wishing to speak must complete a public comment card and submit it to the business manager before the meeting begins. Speakers will be invited to address the board and are limited to 3 minutes each. No speaker can proxy their time to another individual. Public comment is limited by agenda topic to the agenda of the current and one preceding regular board meeting, the August 14th meeting. Notwithstanding the rules and limitations per policy BCBA, when there is a large number of public speakers to be heard, or if pressure of business or other circumstances dictate, the presiding officer may shorten the length of time allowed for each speaker and/or limit the total time to be devoted to public comment. Groups sharing a common concern are encouraged to designate a spokesperson. The board will not hear personal complaints against students, staff, or other individuals during public comment. Such matters should be addressed through appropriate channels. Board members and the district administrator may question a speaker or make comments in response to the speaker's remarks. Is there anyone here tonight that would like to make a public comment on our agenda or last month's agenda? Hearing none, moving on. Number 5, consent agenda. I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
It's been moved.
I'll second.
It's been seconded. Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none, Mrs. Dawkins, will you please call the roll?
Lacey Lonschlager,
Yes.
Bill Ehrman,
Mr. Ehrman, this is to approve or deny the consent agenda.
Scott Lauser,
Yes.
Sabrina Herman,
Yes.
Mitch Kraft.
Yes, motion carries. Special reports, letter A, superintendent's report.
President Kraft, members of the board, you've got in your packet our cumulative enrollment totals. As you can see, we are down. I do want to point out September 3rd was at 7,402 students. You compare that to May 22nd, where we ended the year, we're down 28 students. So not quite as bad as what it does look like at last year at this time, but still not moving in the right direction. I will point out a couple other things. As you can see under our pre-K numbers, we're at 104. We did a 5-year average. That grows based on students turning the age they need to be in pre-K, some testing things, and so public school number 1 in Power School accounts for all of our homeschool kids, some of our parochial kids that come in and take a class or two. And so they're not counted one for one, but they certainly are counted at a percentage. And so we do get dollars and enrollment on that based on how many classes. Until the end. And so that skews us at the end what we're claiming, right? And so that we're working on a different system for that so that you'll see that at the quarter mark. So we'll do that at our November meeting. You'll have an idea of where we're standing when it comes to our homeschool kids and our parochial kids that are taking classes and what that looks like. The other thing that's not in our numbers is our Job Corps students that participate in our school and some of our courses. And so Job Corps is steady at 64 kids. They haven't added or lost kids since the July timeframe, but that's something we're just really in flux. But we will be working with Job Corps to get some solid numbers at the quarter mark, so we can also report on those numbers too. So that's where we're at. I will remind our board, just last year we had our demographer, our RSP and associates come in and do some demographic work for us. Their predictions by 29-30 was that we'd be down 85 students total. They predicted that our elementary would increase by 20, our middle school but decrease by 70, and our high school decrease by 35 for a total loss of 85 students. And so being down the 28 students from May to now, you can kind of see where we're at. The other thing that's really important is the September 10th date that just happened yesterday. That's kind of our baseline date for enrollment, and so we're working through that process now to finalize what that number is and get some confirmation back from DPI so that we're reporting the correct number for that date. So next month we will have that solidified, and DPI will confirm on that, and we'll get you the September 10th enrollment. And so again, the September 10th enrollment, whichever is higher, our end of the school enrollment is based on our payment, and so we get paid on the highest enrollment there. So I'll stand for questions if there are any.
So Dr. Fall, can I ask a question? And maybe it is or is not tied to enrollment specifically, but how are things going with the transition of everything moving to McKinley from the Job Corps area for the school piece that we moved the.
Right. So, President Kraft, members of the board, I can speak a little bit to that with the staff. I think the staff appreciates being in a school instead of more of that office type space that we had over at Job Corps, and so they do like, the classroom spaces are bigger without, support poles in the middle and such. There's good space, the gym, things like that, where they've got some tables they can eat and have some places to do Phi-Ed. Phi-Ed, I think, has been outside quite a lot in the fall because it's nice out, and so they try to get outside. As far as the students go, I was over there the very first day and visited with some students, but I haven't been over there since the first day, and so I can't speak to that. Mr. Kaler, maybe have you visited with students over
I think
there?
it's been a really positive impact for us to be in that school setting. And if they have an identity, like that's their home, or, it's such a welcome place. And I think our enrollment speaks to that too. We have 32 kids there right now, and we're looking to grow that population as well as if we offer more support, more opportunity for kids that need that level of support.
Thank you.
Just a quick question off of memory. What were the graduating classes last spring for the two high schools? And then 220, 230 range?
Well, I think mine at North was at 200, and mine at High was around 330 to 340. It was about 130 to 140 more. This year, the classes are quite a bit, they're pretty similar. I think we're, what are we?
About 435 total.
Yeah. So,
All right.
Anything else for Dr. Paul? Skipping 7 and 8, moving on to number 9, new business, letter A, 24-25 DPI School District Financial Report.
President Kraft, members of the school board, I can do this report for you. I'm going to get it pulled up on the screen here so the public can see it as well. I would let you know that when we print this, when we download this report, the page numbers are on it, but when we scan it, or actually print it on the copier, we lose the page number, so I apologize for that. There's a hard copy in front of you, and the page numbers are not on there, but if you look online, the page numbers are on there. So yeah, this is our report that we send into the Department of Public Instruction each year. Just as a side note, Brady Martz will be auditing these financials starting September 22nd, so they will be on site, and we have been uploading documentation for that audit already. For those of you that are maybe new to looking at this report, this is the same format it's been in for many years. Pages 1 and 2 are your revenues, and it's separated out by your local sources, which includes your property taxes. We also have our tuition that we receive from the Air Force Base. We have county revenue, which includes oil and gas revenues that are brought into the district. And also on page 1 there is your state sources, which is the majority of your revenue, of course. On to the next page there shows detailed federal revenue, and then other revenue from other sources, and the 4.2 million there is also again from the Air Force Base School District. On the bottom of page 2 shows the general fund recap. You started your beginning balance, and that this is the general fund, of course, just over 21 million. You have revenues listed there, 126.5, expenditures of 125.4, and your ending fund balance is $22,106,677. We will be going over your 25-26 budget later on in the agenda, and that 22.1 million is 16.866% of a fund balance to go into those expenses for that school year. The next page there starts to show the breakdown of the expenses. Section 1 at the top, there's your what we call our regular programming. Details it out by kindergarten, elementary, senior high in instruction, support, and your principal. Down below there's your federal programs. I would note this is not all of the federal programs, but it is how the Department of Instruction wants us to report that, those sections to them. So that's detailed out there. The next page there, section 1 at the top on distributed programs. This is improvement of instruction services. That's largely what we call internally our professional development. The next line there, instructional media services, also known as, your library media services. You've got your school board listed there, superintendents, budgets. The area that's called special area administration services, that's largely like your directors and your department heads, other support staff in the district. We have the business office, the large budget there for operations and maintenance. That's all very custodial, our electrical bills, heat, water, all those sorts of items. And then support services at the central office, 2,800, that is actually human resources. So 20.9 million there. And then down below on the bottom of that page, the cost of education recap, I actually don't largely like that it's reported here because we haven't gotten into the detail of the special education and the career and tech is later on in your report, but this is where they have space for it. So it starts to show the cost of education recapped for you there. So that shows 113.9 million. On to the next page there, we start to get into some more other programs and services in the district, including student transportation, the services provided for other LEA, that is some impact aid money that we send to Glenburn Public School District. Construction services by contractors, that's your deferred maintenance budget. And extracurricular transportation. The line there that says adult education community programs, that's the CLC program, before and after school program. Or adult ed, I should say, that was your community ed. I should say that, I said that wrong. The next line down there, community service, community programs, that's your before and after school programs. And then other enterprise services are largely just some other things that we account for in the district. Down below is the tuition and assessments, broken out into elementary, senior high, special education. Senior high can be largely some of the online classes as well that we support in the school district for students, or it could be other tuition that we need to pay for our students being served elsewhere in another school district. On to page 6, transfers and other use of funds. We have 2 items there. The first one there, debt service payment, that's your building authority. And going into this next fiscal year will be the last year that payment will be made. And then the capital projects was budgeted this last year to transfer into our building fund to pay off the Dwayne Carlson Field Turf Project. On to page 7 there, that is your detail on your special education services. I won't go into a lot of detail there, but you can see it broken out by services for students. And then the transportation is down below for a total of just under $25 million for those services. On to page 8 there, DPI would like us to break out our idea B and discretionary federal funds, preschool and other federal dollars. So we always break that out for them in that section. On to page 9 is your detail on your career and technical center expenses. I would just note here, we do account for it the same, but we do have some of the components under these expenses that are under this building, what we call our Minot Area Workforce Academy, and we receive extra revenue because we're considered a center under those programs. So, but it's all detailed here under one section, $4.3 million. On to page 10 is where we start to show you our special funds. Fund Group 2 is your special reserve fund. We do have a special levy for this that we've shown you under your tax levy. And we do budget half of this balance, the 1.3 million that's listed there, moving into your general fund as a revenue source to support your general fund every year. Fund Group 3 is your building fund. Largely, this is for capital projects. Obviously, we ran the North project and all the other projects over the last 3 years through this fund. There's a few other things that run through this fund. You can see under the revenue line there, the special assessments. So if we are to pay any special assessments for anything that the city determines is improvements near our property, we can tax for that, and the revenue and expenses come out of this fund. I would stop for just a moment, and in front of you is the balance sheet for this fund, and I just want to call out, so it does show a negative fund balance in this Fund 03, and I just want to show you the detail of that because I promised you that at a prior meeting. So the balance sheet shows you have a negative cash of $296,000, but the on the fund balance is on the bottom part of that report. So where it says 03-700, that is the fund equity for basically all of the projects that happen district-wide. So Minot North, Minot High, everything that was done across the district over the last 3 years ran through that. And so that is the balance as of June 30th, is we have $1 million left on that project to pay. And when we move forward into your 25-26 budget, that is some of the funds we've budgeted to pay off that. So we do owe Kraus Anderson $250,000 yet for a balance of Minot North project, and that is part of what we're budgeting out of the 25-26 budget. But you can just see some of the detail there on how we account for other special projects that are happening in our district. We did receive a donation for the Minot High School Commons, so we have it there, and we account for that, those expenses there. The Minot North Turf, we have a sponsorship agreement on that project, and when we receive the revenue every year, we're putting it there, and so we're just anticipating down the road when we need to either upgrade the track or the turf or any expenses up there, then we have a small fund balance to take care of those needs on that facility. The Minot North roof claims, that is basically where we're accounting for the insurance proceeds and the expenses out of that. And then at the bottom there's your special assessment fund equity. That's the balance over the years. And we don't need to levy for that this next year, but that's the balance on the account right now. So I told you I'd kind of show you this, and then every time you see a negative fund balance, I think it's important to talk about why. Okay, so going back to your other report, going into page 11, Fund Group 4, your debt service fund. So the debt that the school district has to pay principal and interest payments, that is your beginning balance, the revenues and expenditures that have run through that fund over the past fiscal year. I always like to point out in this section, though, it shows an ending fund balance is $8.8 million. Under all of the general obligation bonds that we have within the state of North Dakota, those principal and interest payments are always due August 1, and our fiscal year ends June 30th. So this report always, to me, shows that we are egregiously overtaxing people, but I would tell you in August, when we paid off of all of those principal and interest payments that were due in August, the balance was $105,006 in that account. So it's about as tight as we can get with taxing and collecting and paying those payments, and I wouldn't want it too much tighter than that. But I always like to point that out because it looks like we have all this extra money sitting in there that we have not allocated, but we certainly have. Fund Group 5 is your food service fund. So across all of the schools, the food service programs, all of the wages and benefits and expenses for those programs are run in and out of this fund. And there's $1.8 million in there as of June 30th. There used to be a 3-month fund balance requirement in there. So we did spend it down over this last fiscal year a little bit on some one-time things. But now that fund balance is 6 months that I largely don't think we'll ever get to a 6-month fund balance in there, but that is the state requirement now, or what we can comply with. On to page 12, your student activity funds. So these are the activity funds that are held at your school level. Largely, there's a lot of fundraising that goes on and things of those nature. Those are accounted for being public funds, and can be subject to audit just like anything else. Fund Group 7, our trust and agency. We are the fiscal agent for Head Start, Starbase, and the Adult Learning Center, and that's just accounts for the fund balance and the revenues and expenses running out of those particular groups. And I would tell you that basically when you have your financial reports monthly that loads into your consent agenda, obviously you can see the different fund balances there. This report just shows them all lumped together. And then on to page 13, and I really apologize for everyone that I'm not actually running the computer and doing this at the same time. But it's in your packet if you'd like to follow along. So the top part there, this is always just important to see the breakdown of the fund balance. So you have two opportunities for taxing and your levy, the tuition levy, high school tuition levy it's called, and a miscellaneous levy. We are required to account for the expenses on the tuition levy and the miscellaneous levy separately. So this just shows you those fund balances. I would like to call attention to the miscellaneous fund. It does have $773,000 in there right now, but we, last year's budget had budgeted about, it was like $500 and some thousand of curriculum items that we did not spend, and it was supposed to post to there. So that is the reason that there's still a fund balance of that nature there. And then I will just explain in general the ending fund balance, and then there's a difference of an ending cash balance. So our fiscal year ends June 30th, but we expense out. So we have staff that receive July and August paychecks and benefits. So we post the expenses to July and August, but we haven't paid them out. So that's the cash difference. As of June 30th, we still have the cash in the bank to pay those expenses. So that's why you see a variance with ending fund balance and then the cash balance there. So once again, your ending fund balance is $22,106,677, which is 16.86% of your projected 25-26 budget. And the last part there on page 13 is, once again, just a really nice recap of the other special funds, special reserve fund, building fund and special assessment fund is broken out on this section, but in our fund balance, those two lines are kept together. Fund Group 4 is, once again, your debt service, food service, student activities, and then trust and agency. And on to page 14. That is your debt that you hold on the books as of June 30th. And like I said, some of those fund balances are that outstanding bonds, we pay quite a bit off on August 1. So, but this is as of June 30th. And then finally on to page 15, this is the one we always start to look at to start comparing ourselves across the state to see kind of where we sit with our, what we call our average cost per pupil. So if you go down towards the bottom of that page, it's line 008, average cost per pupil. So the Minot Public Schools average cost per pupil in this last fiscal year was $14,649.82. Last fiscal year, that was $14,611.55. So not a large increase there. And this is also where we start to show our average daily membership, and then they break out our ADA as your average daily attendance, and also where we track our summer school average daily attendance and membership for revenue reporting. But that is the report. I do need to recommend that you recommend to approve as presented, but I can certainly stand for any questions.
Questions or?
Yeah, the 25 and 26 budget?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be later on in the agenda.
The only, I guess, question procedurally is a couple times you mentioned the DPI wants us to report to them. on those federal funds, their purpose is to administer and distribute those funds to us. And do you do that reporting and then give it back to them after they gave us the funds and in the format they want? Or do they just, I'm just wondering if they're providing extra work for us when it's their job to distribute those funds to us and they say they want to report it a certain way. Do you do the reporting and give it to them and they say this is the report, certify it and send it back?
Mr. President, members of the board, just to clarify your question, you're asking on this particular report, or, and maybe this might be for Mrs. Iverson as the keeper of the, watching over our federal funds, but
Yeah, I was just looking at the section 1 on page 3 or 4, whatever it was, on those federal programs.
yeah, that page is to show what has hit our accounting in the last fiscal year on those items. And so to answer your question, this report didn't get done until early this week because we were waiting for basically the department to approve one of our final federal grants. When we submit a ledger and request money back, they have to approve that. They do hold the funds and distribute to them, but we also have to show that it's allowable expenses. And so this is just basically the bookkeeping of all of that at a high level. They see all the detail. They see every ledger and every detail on everything we spend. Yep. And I don't know if Mrs. Iverson wanted to say anything else on that, but. Okay.
We have to we do our consolidated app, we have to submit budgets, they have to approve our budgets for spending, and then we have to submit our claims to ensure that it's proper spending under federal regulations. We do set aside reports through our web grants for the funds that we give to the non-parochial schools, but which is uploading of our ledgers. And then Title IV funds, we do have an additional report because we need to set goals, but we just then review the goals we set to receive the fund and put where we're at for those. So it's not additional workload beyond, it's mainly within the budgeting, within web grants.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
One question too, is this correct, Laura, in the miscellaneous fund that you guys had indicated the curriculum piece? The only reason it's sitting there is because we waited to make that purchase because of the new version that was coming out this fall, is that correct?
That is correct. And
Okay.
so then it is our job in our accounting office to making sure that we are applying applicable expenses moving forward to use that fund balance appropriately as we work on your next year's budget.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Entertain a motion?
I would move to approve the report as presented.
It's been moved,
I'll second.
it's been seconded. Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none. Mrs. Stockton, will you please call the roll?
Scott Lauser? Yes. Sabrina Herman?
Yes.
Lacey Laudenschlager?
Yes.
Bill Ehrman?
Mr. Ehrman?
Mitch Kraft?
Yes, motion carries. Letter B, DPI Annual Compliance Report.
President Kraft, members of the board, each year we do an annual compliance report. It consists of 8 sections. Each principal goes in and confirms that they've met those. The 8 sections: valid teaching licenses for pre-K-12, personnel is highly qualified for pre-K-12, curriculum it meets the Century Code for pre-K-12. We have review processes for continuous improvement through our Cognitive plans. We're meeting our safety requirements, our background checks. Our high schools are using e-transcript, and then there's some compliance checks that deal with library credentials, school counseling credentials, and such. And so each school has gone in there, each principal has, and assured us that they're all in compliance. And so we are looking for a motion to approve that, so I can go in and hit submit to DPI.
I'd move the compliance report.
It's been moved. It's been seconded. Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none, Mrs. Docken, will you please call the roll?
Yes.
Yes.
That's you, Mr. Urban.
Yes.
Yes, motion carries. Letter C, fall calendar report.
President Kraft, members of the board, the document before you is your approved calendar that you made last year. And so this time of year, we go in and submit it to DPI and it's uploaded into Power School. And so this calendar was worked on by Superintendent's Advisory and surveys went out and this is what they settled on, so. And you approved.
Letter D, sorry, updated MPS, oh, sorry.
I gotta have a motion on.
Oh, I thought we did approve, sorry.
No.
I would entertain a motion to approve.
I'd move to approve the fall calendar.
It's been moved,
I'll second.
it's been seconded, any discussion?
Just pointed this out before we talked about this. That school is going right up to Christmas Eve this year. So I think people need to know that.
Oh, definitely. Any other discussion? Hearing none, Mrs. Docken, will you please call the roll?
Yes.
Mr. Urban.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, motion carries. Letter D, sorry about that. Updated MPS LAU plan.
Oh, do you want me to take this one? We have, it's a LAU plan, it's called the LAU plan, and it's for English language learners. And we had to make some updates because changes in the state happened. Our students take an annual access report that tells us if they qualify for EL services. And in past years, they had to score a 5 to no longer qualify, and the state has modified that. If they now score 4.5, they do not qualify to receive services. We still monitor and watch and support those students, but they no longer need the EL plan specific to them. And so with that change, we needed to update this LAU plan that we use in our district and made that change. The access assessment we also give changed from being the access 2.0 to just the access. So those are the only changes since it was approved the last time.
Second.
It's been seconded. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none, Mrs. Docken, will you please call the roll?
Bill Herman,
Mr. Urban.
Scott Hauser,
Yes.
Sabrina Herman,
Yes.
Lacey Bonchauser,
Yes.
Mitch Kraft.
Yes, motion carries. Backtracking, number 7, old business, letter A, 2025-26 budget and 25 tax levy, third reading.
Mr. President, members of the board, in your packet is your third reading of your 25-26 budget. Largely, the changes in this draft are me pulling more reports into our payroll system, just updating contracts. You will see most of your federal allocations are updated here as we closed out our fiscal year and open up the new year, what was finally approved by DPI, and just, what are those allocations and expenses. But I would tell you, really, so this is a slight negative deficit budget of just over $400,000. The biggest component that we are waiting on before we finalize the budget for your October 7th meeting is our 2026 United Healthcare rates. So remember, not too long ago, we put out an RFP for a new benefits broker that was awarded, and we have been working with them. And so that health insurance plan is still being negotiated with this new broker. There's a few things that they're looking into for us. And so with that in mind, I haven't brought in any more expenses or anything like that. I'm waiting for that negotiation to finalize, and we do have a target deadline of October 1 for that to happen. So then we can get open enrollment going and ready to go for that July 1 or January 1 start, excuse me. So that's the biggest component that for your budget. I'll go into maybe a little bit more onto your revenue side of things. That's really all you're seeing there too, is just adjustments to anything that we're seeing on those federal allocations, finalizing those, getting them updated appropriately. On that revenue page too, we do have another grant that's running through Minot State for some school-based mental health services that is helping to pay for a school psychologist intern in our school district. So that is a nice grant to see there. So maybe I'll pause there and ask if there's any questions on the budget, and then I'll talk about the tax levy.
I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
So I know within last year's deficit budget, one of the things we talked about when we were going through contract negotiations was pieces about you had felt you probably over budgeted in a way for paras and things like that, because those were the numbers we really needed to serve, but we couldn't fill the positions. And you were going to try to make slight adjustments to that this year, because obviously we are regularly not always filling those roles. Were those adjustments made to here as far as like those salary pieces?
Yeah, Mr. President, members of the board, I think that's a really great question. So in the special education budget, we have reduced it just over $600,000. I do feel like we did over budget that. We budgeted to where we thought we were going to staff, and then we weren't able to staff to that. I think the last count we had 28 open positions, and with that, we're expecting to fill that, expecting to spend it, and then we didn't. So that's largely some of the gap. Once again, the curriculum piece, we did, remember at your July school board meeting, we dug into the reason for potentially, the deficit projection and where we landed. And you can see that department by department. If you go back to that report from July, this report doesn't largely show that, but we can probably analyze that and send that out to you if you wanted to. But these are all just reports that we're creating within our offices here. Some of the reports that we send out used to use at these public meetings, I just think they were kind of hard to read. They didn't show the budgeted and actual and where we landed, and I think that's confusing for people, so we're trying to show it in a different light. But to answer your question, yes, we obviously over budgeted in that area, and we're trying to figure that out. So this budget shows us that, like, when we pull the payroll reports for some of our larger expense lines for the special education paras, we're trying to target just below that, like 94%. I would tell you, that could be a plan now, and we could look really smart or not very smart based on that, because we could find these people and hire them, sure, and then the expenses would happen. Okay. So, but largely we had to come up with a plan that made sense, and we used data for that. We had a look back of 3 years on what was budgeted, what was loading into our payroll reports, what we were actually spending. We can hire staff, and then they take unpaid leave, and that does happen. So we can have them hired, but there just isn't any payroll. Sometimes that happens. And then if we're budgeting for a position and then can't find them, obviously that's gonna create a gap in your budget as well. So yeah, that is, hopefully we're trying to kind of hone in on that a little bit more this year, and maybe we can make it look into a little bit more this next year and get it figured out a little bit better.
Okay, I had one more question. Recently, probably in the last couple of days, there has been information pushed out there that we could look at additional title cuts from federal funding. Obviously very concerning, especially when the cut could be like 26%. That's a big portion of how we budget. So we are setting a budget based on dollars that we thought we were being provided. How do we adjust, or what is the plan if in fact those dollars are adjusted and don't come in?
Yeah, Mr. President, members of the board, that's really what we experienced in the spring. We kind of felt like we weren't going to receive the money, and we had already issued contracts and honestly expended a few things that we were relying on those funds for, and then we did get the money back.
Okay.
So we have received the allocations from the state, but I would have to find that report and read what you were looking at. Is it future expenses potentially
I was-
cut out of federal budget?
Yeah.
And if such, that puts us in a little bit easier position because we have time to react to that.
Okay.
It was much more difficult when we had already issued a lot of contracts and then that cliff of no funding there. And so
Okay.
to answer your question more specifically though, if we come up and they say now you're cut whatever, then that's why you have a fund balance is,
Okay.
you know, if we don't have the revenue and we've already, you know, per state law put out the contracts, then we would have to expend those funds.
That's where that gap comes in that we can fill.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
thank you.
Yep.
Just a couple of questions. One, I think it was last meeting, those pairs, they had 20 vacancies, but I thought that number was around $1 million. We're down to about 600,000 now. Did we fill some of those positions, or did
So
we?
that particular special education budget, we had over budgeted the entire department. Remember, if we go back to the 25-26 report that we just reviewed, there's many different sections in special ed, but we were largely looking at a kind of about 3 or 4 different sections where most of those para positions are budgeted. So 1.5 million wasn't spent, and about $780,000 was specific to those positions that we were identifying that were potentially over budgeted. So, there's other areas, but once again, your special education department you are held to what's called maintenance of effort. So once you spend a certain level and your student count, you're expected to spend to that same level unless your student count decreases or you have other justifiable reasons under that to decrease those expenses.
Second question on the activities department, we're 200 and almost $250,000 higher. First week of school, I had 3 different kids from 3 different teams ask in fundraising efforts. I know our students are out asking the population here to contribute, and we're increasing the budget, but none of those raised funds for each of those teams is going into these budgets, correct?
Yeah, Mr. President, members of the board, to answer that specifically, when you see the fundraising of those sorts, those funds are supposed to be deposited into the student activity funds, which is a separate fund. So they're largely held at the schools. This budget increase here, when we go back and analyze the budget versus actual on that particular department last year, it's the coaches' wages and benefits that we were under budgeted for. So we've increased this to account for those payroll expenses.
Okay. And last question on the facility maintenance, is that just a percentage increase? 1,050,000, is that? Are we just doing a percentage increase off the 967?
Yeah, Mr. President, members of the board, that particular line item, that one has your general deferred maintenance line. If we wanted to get into, there's some consulting dollars there if you wanted to get a consultant to help you facility plan out the deferred maintenance issues that we talked about last school year. There's a budget there for that, and then some of the money in that budget would be going towards paying off that fund balance in Fund 03 as well.
Hold on. Sorry about that.
So if we go into page, let's see here, into 5, this is your tax levy that largely supports your budget as well. This particular levy has not changed since our last meeting, and I'll explain that why. So the taxable valuation that you see there, when I contacted the county this week and asked for any valuation updates, that number only increased by $6,000. It didn't feel like it was relevant for me to change a levy based on a $6,000 valuation, with their feedback also saying that many corrections needed to be made, and that number would be changing. So I did explain to them that your next board meeting is October 7th to set the final tax levy. And remember, we levy dollars, but it's important that we have a final valuation because now part of, with the property tax caps and the changes in the Century Code, we do need a final valuation to calculate any gap funding that we could be receiving from the state, which is honestly, it's a component of your revenue as well. So it's really important that we do have a final taxable valuation so we can set your general fund levy appropriately to set the tone for your budget. But this hasn't changed. And once again, as you're looking at it, it's not in color in front of you on the pieces of paper, but in up on the screen there, the items in pink are the items that are subject to the property tax caps. And then down below here is the calculation worksheet that, once again, this is given to every taxing entity in the state. Everyone had the opportunity to get trained on it, and I do think it's a really nice, easy, usable worksheet, but largely for a school district, there's only a few lines that we will use in it. So we have to do 2 calculations that you see there, and then we're allowed to use the maximum, that 22.4 million. That correlates up here. We have to stay below that. So this tax levy, those dollars stay below that cap. And then the other worksheet that we load in here, you won't see at any other public tax hearings because this is just one that school districts have been using across the state. And once again, there it shows the previous taxable valuation and the current. And so this is important to generate on the second page here what we're showing as potential gap funding from the state. So if we go back to the 2025 legislative session, there was a large discussion on, remember, you as a school district are mandated to levy 60 mills in your general fund. And if the taxable valuation goes above the 3%, that is gonna artificially inflate that down, the 60 mills down, and basically devalue it. And so then the state says though they will start to pay that gap, that difference. And so it's important to know the final valuation. So we can know, like in this example, it shows we would be receiving just under $91,000 for that gap funding. But if the taxable valuation increases a lot more, that gap funding becomes a lot more because we're not allowed to, what we used to call, capture that valuation as a taxing entity. We're capped at the 3%. So I just wanted to explain the difference in the worksheets and how we're using them as a school district. And once again, as we talked last month, this page 8 shows our possible tuition levy based on the expenses that we've had. And as I reported under your 24-25 financial report, we do have a fund balance under the high school tuition levy. So we don't need to levy as much. We don't need to levy as many dollars because you have a small fund balance to support those expenses moving forward. So that's your tax levy. Like I said, this has not changed since last month. It's staying the same, but we could see maybe a small change next month as we get some final numbers, hopefully, from the county. And then we just want to make sure that we're setting it appropriately so we're getting, if there's any potential gap funding that's eligible for the school district, that we're sending it in to the county correctly and then reporting it to DPI correctly as well. And that is all I have. I'll answer any questions that you have.
So I've had a concern about this gap funding since April. We're showing about a 4% increase in valuations that we think we're going to hear about after our next meeting. But residential real estate in Minot right now is up year-to-date 7%. So if that number increases dramatically, it's going to be a dramatic increase for us for gap funding. And I know this is the case across the state, but, and there's $35 million available, so I'm not concerned that we won't qualify or that it'll be gone by the time we apply. My concern is if we set the levy and that number changes dramatically, what happens? And we're the only entity in Minot or in Ward County that has access to gap funding. The other political subs don't have that. So that matters to us, probably more than is recognized at other places. But if that valuation somehow goes up by 4% more, and it's accurate, and we've set our levy, is there any ability after our next meeting to go back and amend our budget?
Mr. President, members of the board, under the state law, your levy is due to the county by October 10th, so there wouldn't be any available time, essentially, to make that change. But my office has communicated with Ward County on the reason that we want that final valuation as much as possible before your October 7th meeting.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
So again, then that's just why our fund balance is what it is, so that you can cover those gaps if we would run into that situation.
Yeah, Mr. President, members of the board, I think where I'm at with it is we could potentially lose funding, to Mr. Lauser's point, if we don't have an appropriate final valuation. And I went back and looked at my reports from last year, and I believe the final valuation was sent to DPI somewhere in like November. So they have timelines, we have timelines, and as long as we're communicating, maybe hopefully we can get that synced up together. But we certainly don't want to leave money down in Bismarck if we can use it as a school district here.
I'd entertain a motion.
I would move to approve this on the third reading, right? This is our third reading?
It's been moved.
Second.
It's been seconded. Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing-
Just a quick question.
Yes.
When we're looking at that transfer to local projects, that increase of 510, we're going to be in a position in about 2 years where that obligation is completely paid for. We're balanced. And we're going to, I mean, if we're getting this budget right this time, and that 500 goes away, we're going to be healthy.
That you're keeping mindful of the Job Corps increased ADM that we received this year, and we are projecting about at least a 75 student decrease on that, which is about the same dollar amount. So I think we have an appropriate amount that we're mindful of and we're watching, that we can maybe adjust at least that component of our ADM reduction as we go into next May and see what that report looks like.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, Mrs. Dawkins, will you please call the roll?
Bill Ehrman,
Mr. Herman?
Scott Lauser,
Yes.
Sabrina Herman,
Yes.
Lacey Lautenschlager,
Yes.
Mitch Kraft.
Yes, motion carries. Item number 8, public budget hearing, 25-26 budget and 25 tax levy. All public entities are required under North Dakota law to offer a public hearing before finalization of the budget. Is there a motion to open the public hearing? It's been moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been seconded. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? Mrs. Dawkins, will you please call the roll?
Scott Lauser,
Yes.
Sabrina Herman,
Yes.
Lacey Lautenschlager,
Yes.
Bill Ehrman,
Mr. Ehrman? That was a yes.
Mitch Kraft.
Yes, motion carries. The following general rules apply for the public hearings. Rule number 1, no patron is allowed to speak without first being recognized by the president. Number 2, those who offer testimony shall state their name and sign in on the sheet provided at the podium. Number 3, Testimony shall be limited to issues directly related to the proposed 25-26 Minot Public School District budget and 25 tax levy. Number 4, all testimony shall be kept respectful and civil. Profane or inappropriate behavior will not be tolerated. If such behavior is noted, you will be asked to leave the podium. Number 5, each patron will be allowed 5 minutes to testify. Number 6, no patron can proxy their time to another individual. Number 7, if any patron has questions that are not specifically budget related, they are asked to reach out to the district office personnel. Number 8, when all testimony has been heard, I'll ask the board to close the hearing and we will continue with the agenda. Number 9, property values cannot be addressed at public hearings. Objections to valuations must be addressed to local, county, and state boards of equalization or through abatement proceedings after the value is set. Governing bodies hold public hearings regarding budgets, do not have the authority to change property values. We will now open the floor for public budget hearing.
Is the sign in here? Can you hear me? Okay. Hi, John Carey, 417 26th Street, Northwest, Minot. I'm just looking through the budget here, and there's just there's an area of concern that I have in the operation and maintenance cost. Now I get that, shutting down McKinley and Bell, probably saves some long-term cost, but you still have older schools out there that really have some infrastructure issues going on. And, I have some inside information on Roosevelt. I mean, from what I'm hearing, they're basically Frankensteining their boiler together because it's not supportable anymore because it's so old. And here we are getting ready to go into winter. And I look at this and I say, oh, we're cutting $230,000 out of the budget for maintenance and operations. So I just wanted to voice that concern to you guys to let you know a lot of the equipment in a lot of these schools, it's just not supportable anymore. So I think we need to start taking a hard look of replacing it with supportable equipment. Thank you.
Can we, well, Mr. President, maybe Laura, to address that, we've got the facilities maintenance, repairs, and construction line item we talked about, and then we have this. Under which category do those types of repairs fall? I'm hearing the same thing. Something that might cost us X amount of dollars is tenfold because the part's not available and we have to make it.
Mr. President, members of the board, so your operations and maintenance, there's a couple different things. Is your general facility maintenance and repairs and construction line where some of those items are falling under, but also just the operation and maintenance 2 lines down there, the $2.3 million. And I think what that patron has seen on the decrease there was quite a few expenses that were posted last year to get Minot North stood up. I'm not discrediting the comment as well, but also in your budget, there is a budget to bring in a consultant to try and step the district through potentially on how to plan out, $125 million of deferred maintenance. So we need to prioritize that, and I think we need a consultant to help us with that. Largely, all these projects that we're looking at, most of them need to be bid out and architecture per state law. So that's where we're starting to maybe tackle that within the budget.
At this time, we will close the public hearing. Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second? It's been seconded. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none. Mrs. Dockin, will you please call the roll?
Sabrina Herman,
Yes.
Lacey Launschlager,
Yes.
Bill Ehrman,
Mr. Ehrman?
Scott Lauser,
Yes.
Mitch Kraft.
Yes, motion carries. Item number 9. Letter E. Resignations.
Mr. President and members of the board, Ryan Hofer is requesting to resign effective immediately. It is due to health-related reasons. If you would want additional information or to ask questions about it, you would have to go into executive session. I do have information from his medical provider. And we recommend that you approve and waive the damages.
Been moved. I'll second. Been seconded. Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none. Mrs. Dockin, will you please call the roll?
Lacey Launschlager,
Yes.
Bill Ehrman,
Bill? You must have lost him.
Scott Lauser,
Yes.
Sabrina Herman,
Yes.
Mitch Kraft.
Oh, Bill says yes. And I say yes as well. Motion carries. Thank you. Number 10, announcements. Letter A.
President Kraft, members of the board, we have a board retreat scheduled for September 24th. Remember, this is a consultant that will come in and walk us through what his process would be for us to do some strategic planning and also talk about board governance. So this is an opportunity for him to kind of share with us his process. At that time, then, at the next board meeting, you would have to make a decision if that's a consultant you'd want to use for that process. And so, again, board retreat, there's no decisions made. It's more, he's going to present. We can have some discussions, but there will be no formal decisions made at that time. Item B on that, our next board meeting is October 7th. That is the final reading on our budget. And so, yeah, and then we'll have this strategic planning and board governance as an item as well. Our school board convention is a little bit earlier this year. That's October 9th and 10th. And that's why our school board meeting next month is on a Tuesday. So Mrs. Sanger will be reaching out to you to make arrangements if you plan to attend that conference.
Dr. Falk, can I also ask, is next week our first opportunity to do school tours, correct? Is that next week?
School
Tours.
tours?
Yeah,
Yes.
correct?
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Been moved.
I'll second.
It's been seconded. Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none. Mrs. Dockin, will you please call the roll?
Bill Ehrman,
Mr. Ehrman?
Yes.
Scott Lauser. Yes. Sabrina Herman,
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, motion carries. Meeting is adjourned.